Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're actually starting this meeting on time. Thank you all for coming. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. I know a number of you are here for the first three items on the agenda. The first item on the agenda is a police officer swearing in. The town board had a special meeting on Friday, the 28th of August, to appoint the newest addition to our Kent Police Department. We had to do that at that meeting because the police academy started today, so we could not send him without appointing him. So I'm very proud to announce that we are going to be swearing in our newest police officer, Ryan Pekarsky. Ryan, would you come up with your family? Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Ryan Pekarsky,
I, Ryan Pekarsky,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
support the laws of the State of New York and the Town of Kent,
support the laws of the State of New York and the Town of Kent,
and I will discharge my duties as a Town of Kent police officer
and I will discharge my duties as a Town of Kent police officer
to the best of my abilities,
to the best of my abilities,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
He's not used to the protocol.
You guys got to rehearse this.
No speech? No speech?
Put him on the spot.
The next item on the agenda is the promotion of a police sergeant. This was a very difficult choice for our chief and the town board. We recently have had a retirement of Sergeant Ron Yeager, who I see is here tonight, and I want to thank you, Sergeant Yeager, for your many years of service to the Kent Police Department. Can we have a round of applause for Sergeant Yeager? Our chief, Alex Steveneri, has recommended that Officer Joseph Fleischman be promoted to fill the position of sergeant in the department. So on that recommendation, I make a motion that the board approve the promotion of Joseph Fleischman to the rank of sergeant in the Kent Police Department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Officer, soon to be Sergeant Fleischman, come on. Okay. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joseph Fleischman,
I, Joseph Fleischman,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
support the laws of the State of New York and the Town of Kent,
support the laws of the State of New York, Town of Kent. Sorry, very nervous.
and I will discharge my duties as a Town of Kent police sergeant
I will discharge my duties as a Town of Kent police sergeant
to the best of my abilities,
to the best of my abilities.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
We'll take pictures outside. That way we don't clog everything up in here. Okay, outside. Thank you.
Now, unless the families and friends of Sergeant Fleischman and Officer Pekarsky want to stay for the whole town board meeting. That's what I thought. I think we'll take a 5-minute break. Okay, and after that brief recess, we'd like to get back to the town board workshop. The next item on the agenda, I would really appreciate everybody, the noise level is a little high. We're not going to be able to hear the next item. The next item on the agenda is the Recreation Department. We have 2 items, and so I would invite our Director of Recreation and Parks, Lou Fernandez, up to discuss these items. Oh, you got to move back.
Good evening, board members. I have 2 items on the agenda. The first item is the concessionaire for the 2017 Kent Community Day. I wrote a letter explaining the situation. I had approached Carmel Bagel Deli North, which had done it last year. They were not capable of fulfilling a commitment this year. I had approached Gino's Deli. He was not able to fulfill the requirements for this year. And then I approached Carmel Bagel, which is not affiliated with Carmel Bagel Deli North. They were 2 years ago, they are no longer. And he is able to fulfill the commitment for Community Day. And we have worked with him in the past. That's Kevin Stanger. When he owned Carmel Bagel Deli North, he did it from 2012 to 2015. And I'm seeking approval to have him run the concession for Community Day this year.
Any discussion? I think it's pretty cut and dry.
Okay, excellent.
Great.
The second item on the agenda is that we received bids for the inclusive playground here at the Town Hall complex. We only received 2 bids. I went through them and feel that it would be prudent to go out to bid a second time. I spoke to some of the companies that did not bid for various reasons. They did not put in bids. A couple of them said that they did not receive notification, but I verified their addresses and the letters that went out, and we did not receive letters back, so they must have either gotten lost in their mail or they never opened them. But I don't feel that with the 2 bids received that it is that either one would satisfy, as they stand, what we're looking to accomplish with this playground. I think that they need a little bit more guidance, and because of that, I have amended the bid specs to require a meeting either in person or by phone with me to go over and better understand the scope of what we are looking for in a bid package or proposal from each of these companies. And ideally, I mean, with playgrounds, I would like to see 4 bids. 6 would be probably a lot, but I would like to see at least 4 bids for a project like this.
And you're recommending a bid opening on September 1st?
Yes, Friday, September
because
1st.
In September, our first meeting is until the second Tuesday.
Yes.
Which would give everyone enough time to go through the specs and have some discussion.
Yes, it will give me time to go through the specs, rate them, assign the point values to each of the playgrounds, and then have that information available to the town board with a breakdown of each of the playgrounds, what their point values were, and you know, as long as they met the requirements that were within the bid specifications, I think that it would give us plenty of time to make a decision and move forward.
Any discussion?
My only comment is it seems that we're going out to bid again because we didn't get the bidders we like, which to me is kind of contrary to the whole point of the bidding process. I mean, we had this, we sent it out. Whether somebody opens their mail and decides to bid on our project, I don't think should really, you know, then cause us to change the bids we have in meeting persons so that we get the bidder we want. It kind of seems like, well, then why are we bidding? Why don't we go to the person we want to get the project from? It's a specialized project of some nature. It just seems like the bidding is a formality, and we really want X or Y to do the project and do it in a certain way, and then why are we out bidding for the project then in a general manner?
Well, I don't think that's what Lou is saying at all. I think what Lou is saying is that the two bids which we received aren't satisfactory.
No,
and we've rejected bids before, and that we would like to, even with the two bidders, the only spec that we're changing is requiring a meeting, which will help all of the bidders. I mean, hopefully these two bidders will rebid and bid more in line with what we're looking for. I mean, a meeting helps everyone.
Yeah. If of these two bids that we had received, I felt that they were satisfactory in nature, I would present that to the board and suggest going with the best bid, or the bid that meets the criteria most effectively. I do not feel that in the bids that were submitted that they really hit the mark. They were close, but not close enough, especially with only being two bids, that I would suggest spending the kind of money that we're talking about spending.
But didn't you just say, like, you reached out to somebody you hoped would bid on it?
I
mean,
reached
that kinda
after the
seems-
bids were received, and we were no longer, I reached out to them, and for various reasons, one of the companies, you know, he said that he intended to, and he went on vacation, and
I mean, tough.
he didn't, you know. And
I've never seen an argument that we should reopen a bidding because somebody went on vacation.
I'm not saying that we should, but what I'm saying is that if the bids that we had received were satisfactory, that this wouldn't be an issue. But I do not believe that in the best interest of the town that we should go forward with the two bids and pick from one of them, because I do not believe that they really understand the scope of what we are looking for and meet the idea of an inclusive playground in the fullest aspect of what we want.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really major project, and I don't think we need to be compelled to accept the more appropriate bid out of two if neither one of them actually fulfills our expectations. I mean, we've turned down bids before and reopened them. It's not an unusual thing for a board to do.
But I mean, we don't think it's unusual to be on the record in emails and in the public saying that we've reached out to other individuals that we're hoping were going to bid on this project and didn't, and that's at least part of the reason why we're rebidding. Nobody thinks that that's a problem. I mean, I'm not saying we have to accept one of these two bids, but we're almost put in a situation where we have to follow the state bidding law, and it kind of seems like we're trying to get around it. And that's just something that doesn't sit well with me. And if the board wants to rebid, that's fine. But it is concerning to hear the reasons behind the rebid when we do have two bids for a specified project that we sent out.
And I understand, and like I said, if they were, in my opinion, satisfactory, this wouldn't be an issue. And wanting to know why companies chose not to bid, I think, is relatively important on a project of this scope, and not getting satisfactory answers as to why we didn't receive the number of bids that we should have for this project, I think is something the town board would like to know. The last playground we went out to bid for, we received, I believe, 5 bids for that project at Ryan's Park. So I didn't understand why for this project, which was larger in nature, we would not have received more bids.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're not looking for a specific bidder. Everybody is invited to bid. We're just attempting to get a better playground. And I think if you're going to spend $150,000 on a playground, you don't want to just settle because you only got 2 bids and this is the better of the 2. I think you want to reopen it. You're reopening it to these bidders as well, who will have an opportunity to meet and better understand the scope, and hopefully they will you know, they will submit bids that, not bids, but, you know, proposed playgrounds that are more in line with what we're looking for. This is a massive project, and I think, you know, we just don't say, well, we got 2, let's just take 1 and be done with it. This is really going to be a jewel, I think, for our town. And as I said in my email, by rejecting the bid, we're not seeking to get a specific bidder in on the process. We'd be attempting to get a better playground.
I explained to this board that, you know, there are 2 ways to go out to bid for a playground. If I wanted to pick a specific manufacturer and give them a leg up, I would have gone to them, had them design the playground, and then ask other manufacturers to meet that. That is not what we did, just for that reason, that we are not looking to give an advantage to one manufacturer. We want the best that each manufacturer has to offer, and we want as many manufacturers as possible to offer bids. And I don't think that in this case, with the 2 that we received, that they really are satisfactory to what we are looking to accomplish.
Okay, I want to add a few cents here. First of all, I'd be interested in what Counselor recommends. If there's some things that need shoring up as far as a process, I don't know, bidding versus request for proposals, I'll let the attorney comment on that one. But just, you know, if it's for somebody who went on vacation, you know, I think the attorney will have a remark for that. But if it's something that you want to improve, what's best for Kent, and making this facility something as a model, then that's been done before. But if somebody called and said, well, I'm going on vacation, and they lost out as far as I'm concerned. That's the game. I've done this for 38 years. Now, a couple of things for the people in the audience. The proposal is an inclusive playground that will serve 90-point-something% of the population, correct? You mentioned 90-something.
Well, theoretically, you know, within reason, and can serve the entire population.
Okay, and the catch here, because I heard a remark, it's a state grant, $150,000 state grant, 100% funded by the state, that's earmarked for Kent. Just so for the record, because the vote was kind of quick, and I've mentioned it to my colleagues, that I do have a concern for the location, which is right now presently planned for outside here in the complex. I would like to hopefully see some type of rendering that possibly, and when you meet with your bidders or people that are putting in a plan, a price quote, and their plan for this type of facility, some type of rendering, so the actual layperson, that some of the people that are voting on this to approve it will actually see.
Well, there were renderings in the, I'm sorry. I mean, the renderings are included.
I'll finish in 2 seconds, please.
No, but I just wanted to clarify.
Oh, no, I know, but that's why I waited. Now you lost my plan. Also, I'd like the town board that the master plan that we paid, and it's got my name on it, but I wasn't here when they finalized voted. They called for a facility back in that same spot. Then that master plan needs to be amended by the town board on the recommendation from the recreation director. We spent a lot of money, this consultant, to plan a master plan that I don't think is reasonable It involves the schools, and I don't see the schools letting us use X, Y, and Z on a free basis. But I would like to see some type of rendering, and they can do that on their computers. I'm sure, Lou, you know what I'm talking about, because I'd like everybody who's making the decision here to see what we're going to get for $150,000, okay? And I said my piece. Thank you, Maureen.
All right.
You're on.
Well, I mean, I would just like to point out that the vote to place the inclusive playground on the grounds of Town Hall was unanimous, and the bids that we did receive did have renderings. I mean, that is part of the standard bid. So, I mean, if people haven't had a chance to review these beforehand, the two bids we received they were different quality renderings, and one was, you know, maybe easier to see than the other, but I think that would be standard.
Yes.
Do we require that as part of the bid package? We do.
The bid package does require overhead renderings and I guess you could call them computer-generated renderings of the overall playground design.
Just for the record, I'm going to state this again, that I am not going to vote against the disabled and kids. Part of my background was playing Santa Claus for Park and doing a lot of other things. It's the location. And I'll leave it like that. And they know how I feel.
Any other discussion? Scott? Jamie? Anyone else? Come on. You have to come to the microphone, though, otherwise no one can hear you.
Are there any other choices of locations or not? Is it only here?
We looked into another location. Deputy Supervisor Eustace tried to get a land swap with DEP, worked on that for another location. And this was the location proposed. We had a vote at the town board. We had discussion.
And it's final, that's it?
That was unanimous.
Okay.
We want to get this moving. I mean, realistically, you know, the problem sometimes is, this, I think, is a wonderful project. And we have a grant to cover the cost of it. I worked with Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff for her to get us a grant for $150,000. The Buddhist monastery was also very excited about this project, and they are donating $10,000 to the town for the project. So I'd like to move it forward. You know, we're coming on, I don't want to say we're coming on fall because it's only August 1st, but the longer we wait, the longer this project will be in limbo. And I think if we rebid it and open it on September 1st, we can get going this fall.
Okay, to give a little answer for your questions, Eustace Park, which is formerly the Farmers Mills Park on Farmers Mills Road, half of the playground was removed. So this type of playground could have be put on the grass. What I attempted to do, because there's no vision in our town over the years, I'm talking about the past 20 years, the town of Kent allowed New York City to buy land that surrounded Eustace Park. Some of it was good land. And now we have restrictions with the New York City DEP, which you can see going up Route 52, which some of the impact. The other thing is, when we tried to swap, and I thought it was going to be done, they had to do research. And then I found out the New York State Department of Conservation has conservation rights, okay? But to answer your question, part of that playground could go where the half a playground was removed. I know there's a hill there, and there's some other issues that, you know, from the view from the town. We wanted to get that extra land to make some extra parking and hiking trails and stuff, and try to come up with a partnership with New York City and all the land that they've owned for hiking. We have 95 acres back there. And as far as the playground going here, and I'm in the minority on this, but the last time I helped build a playground, it was at Kent School. The Imagination Station, we did it twice. There's a playground a half a mile up the road. And I'm sure many of you have been to Ryan's Park where there's a playground. I thought maybe Central or West Kent someplace. If not Eustace Park, try and find someplace that could be done. But the town board voted to this, so be it. But I wanted to make sure, because you know where I'm coming from here.
call one vendor or more than one vendor after the bids were received?
I called 5 vendors after the bids were received to see why they did not put in bids for this project.
And the other question I have for you is, in addition to this meeting that you want to hold, is there anything you can do if you rebid the project and the specifications to sort of clarify what it is you're looking for?
Yes, but as a part of the meeting or the conversation, I will clarify and help them understand better our vision beyond just the specifications in the bid.
I would just recommend that to the extent you can incorporate that in the specifications, you should.
Well,
Maybe
I
I'm just not
attempted,
understanding why you
it's
can't,
just very difficult sometimes in, you know, in keeping to a bid document that's already 15 pages long to add the type of information that can be more easily described in conversation.
Yeah, but it's better than going out to rebid. So just to the extent that you can, that's my suggestion. And if you need any help with it, you can call on me.
Thank you.
Sure, come on up.
Just that
You got to get to the microphone.
it sounds like did they actually meet the specifications? The 2 bids that you got? If they didn't meet the specifications, right then and there, you should just throw them out. That's number one. Number two, as the council mentioned, the qualitative things that you're talking about that are not quantitative, spec-wise, need to be in there, written down, because if they're not, and they don't deliver on it, you have no recourse. You'll just get screwed. So it needs to be there, has to be there.
Thank you.
In the nuts and bolts, one of the bidders did not meet all of the requirements. It was required to have 2 benches within the playground. They had no benches within the playground, which left one bidder that met the full scope of the bid. But I don't believe that in reviewing it, that it really meets the idea of what we are looking for in this. And I believe that a conversation, a meeting that is required will help to alleviate any issues. I understand what you're saying, but there are just so many descriptive words that you can use that for this type of project, and I think that an in-person or an over-the-phone conversation really assists. It is, I know you do not agree, but I have
Only
done this
because,
before,
yeah,
and
it's not a good idea to talk with bidders individually over the phone. So I'm okay with the meeting, but I'm
well, you know, some of these guys honestly are 3 hours away, and I don't believe that, you know, coming down for a 15 or 20-minute meeting is going to be something that they are all able to do. If the town board
Maybe we could
wants
do
us
like a
to-
go-to-meeting.
right.
Do it on the phone, but a go-to-meeting with all the bidders at once. Establish a time when everyone can be available that's interested in bidding, and do it on the phone so that you're not, you know, making people drive 6 hours round trip. But this way, everyone gets all the same information at the same time, and then we're done with it. And then I think you should put as much as possible in the bid, and then, you know, whatever loose ends, you do it with everybody present telephonically.
I mean, I can talk to Rich and see if we can video conference for those that are not able to attend, if that is
Yep, that works.
preferable.
As long as everybody gets the same information at
Standard
the same
government
time.
contracts often have what's called a pre-bid conference. Everyone is invited, it's the same time. They can send in their questions. Every question that is given at a pre-bid conference, there's a written answer, and it's given to every person who attended the conference or who's expressed interest or has requested a bid. So that may be a helpful way to level the playing field for you in this situation, is have something called an official pre-bid conference.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
And then we can add required pre-bid conference on a given date and put that out with the bid.
Yeah,
I don't have an issue with that.
great. All right, any other comments, discussions? You have to come up.
Hi, I just have a question. I don't know how large this project is going to be, but when this center was built, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the utilities for all these buildings connected is under the ground in that center green. So I'm assuming looking at building something on top of it, but again, too, it may not be the entire green, but
Right,
that's
we've-
where everything runs, is underneath there.
This issue has come up previously, and we did look at the blueprints. We had the blueprints available at the town board meeting where we took the vote. There are no, it doesn't interfere with any utilities.
All right, so it's going to be built on the side of it and not on top of it?
It's going to be built outside. There
Of
are
that-
no utilities all throughout there. The blueprints are pretty clear.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Anyone else? Thank you, Will.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the change to the town code regarding surety bonds and the draft that was circulated by council. Every place in the various sections of the town code that just mentioned cash bond were replaced with cash bond, surety bond, or letter of credit. Well, not every place, but most places. So, you know, we've had this discussion about this before. We did check with other towns. We had an engineer from Insight who came and spoke about how people that go to the planning board, that this would make it easier for people to actually build in the town or improve their properties. So all that's left to do tonight is to set the public hearing, if everyone is satisfied with the draft of the sections.
Yeah, I reached out to Nancy today just to note that what she did, which was perfect, was just add the words like you said. And for some reason, some of the sections make it out that the town or the board can dictate which type of bond. And some sections, it looks like the applicant can decide which type of bond. So I suggested that we should keep it streamlined throughout and be the applicant, because that's the whole purpose, and that as long as Nancy and I are able to make those changes by September 1st, we meet with all the posting requirements
Okay.
for the public hearing.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to keep it consistent throughout. So we'll set the
The
public
applicant can decide which type they want to use, surety bond, cash bond, or letter of credit. Okay.
Okay. And we'll do this on September 1st, set the public hearing for the meeting on, not September 1st, I'm sorry, September, that's the bid day. What's the next town board meeting is?
12.
12th. September 12th?
Remember, that's primary day,
No, primary date's the...
September 12th. So this room gets used.
Oh, and it's probably a big enough primary, because last time we had a primary, they did it in the small
They really
room.
didn't like being moved either, so.
Right, because we'll have a number of primaries that day. Okay. So then do we need to move that meeting?
We're gonna move the meeting. Move it another week. And bring it back. So the next day would be September 19th.
we're not doing the 5th?
That's a long time between meetings. The 5th is the day after Labor Day.
Oh.
But we could do the 5th. And then the next meeting is the 26th. So should we change the town board meeting to September 5th?
I'll be here.
All right. So then we'll set the public hearing for September 5th, and we'll change the town board meeting. Do we hear any other discussion on that topic? Okay. The new member of the planning board. We had discussed this a few meetings back. Do you want to take this, Scott, since you're the liaison?
Yes, I sent an email out, I think a week and a half ago regarding the candidates that are being considered. And it was very difficult to come up with a decision. Both are very excellent candidates. But based on considering the needs of the planning board, and they've been out without a member for the last 3 months or so, and based on their needs and what they really deal with the most, looking at the resume of Mr. Pappas, he fills every qualification that they need. So I decided to stick with what they decided that they needed based on their immediate needs. Not to say that Mr. Gattucci is not an excellent fit, it's just a different set of eyes. And I hope that when a position does become available, that he's still considered for this, because making this a multi-dimensional board would make this planning board even better, I think. So I haven't heard any other responses, so I'm willing to listen.
Right. Yeah, you sent that email.
It was like a
out
week or so ago.
Over a week ago. Yeah. I'm fine with going forward.
Well, I'm against it. We hashed this out last meeting. We hashed this out the meeting before. I think the town board should be the ones appointing the planning board members. It's our job to do it. It's our job to interview. It's our job to pick the person who we believe will represent the town and the planning board the best. It's not our job to defer to the planning board. The one control the town board has over the planning and the planning applications is its members, and we should take that seriously. The last time we interviewed both candidates, Mr. Pappas interviewed. He did not come out of that interview with the town board as the top candidate. We did not interview again this time. The individual who the planning board wants to appoint has not lived in town for more than 6 months. He does not have a professional experience in any of the jobs that would be beneficial to the planning board, and he will not commit to serve out the term that we're appointing him to. So I just don't agree with the planning board on this, and I think the town board should either continue the search, but it would be my recommendation to appoint the other applicant.
Okay, well, Scott sent out, if I may respond, Scott sent his email to the town board recommending that we not do any further interviews based on both Mr. Pappas's qualifications and the planning board recommendation. I'd like to point out, and maybe I wasn't qualified, but I was appointed to be the chairwoman of the Stormwater Committee when I had lived in this town only 5 months. And I served in that capacity for many years, and we made a lot of progress with stormwater. So I don't think that we judge somebody merely by the amount of time. After Scott put out that email saying he didn't think we needed to interview and recommending Mr. Pappas, no member of the board responded saying they did want to continue to interview. I think to take what the planning board said. And, obviously the planning board has had some difficulty and feels a little, I don't know, disrespected, shall we say, because the recommendations are never taken by this board. We don't interview most people that we appoint to positions such as police officer, police sergeant. We trust in the people who are in those positions that understand the job. Mr. Gattucci, although, a fine candidate, because certainly people that apply for the planning board don't have to have planning board experience. They don't have to have any experience. They have to be willing to work hard. They have to be willing to go to the classes. They have to be willing to learn. Mr. Pappas has almost 5 years of planning board experience. He understands seeker. He understands the mechanics of a planning board, whereas Mr. Gattucci doesn't have that experience. What Councilman Denbaum is alluding to, obviously, is Mr. Pappas's unwillingness to commit. Mr. Pappas applied for this position, sent a resume in to the town clerk, as is the normal practice, on February 10th. Mr. Pappas is running for, as I guess most people know, is running for the town board, is running for the councilman position. He applied for the planning board well before he was running for office, and the only way he would not serve out his term on the planning board is if he were elected to the town board. Mr. Gattucci, on the other hand, did not submit his resume to the town clerk, but rather Councilman Denbaum did. He didn't even submit a letter of interest. Mr. Denbaum submitted, Councilman Denbaum submitted his resume, which is not the procedure. It is the individual is supposed to submit it to the town clerk. So I find it a little interesting that we have a candidate who is totally qualified, has a master's in public administration, has 5 years of planning board experience, understands seeker, is resoundingly recommended unanimously by the current planning board, and yet without interviewing him, Councilman Denbaum is willing to appoint his neighbor and the person whose resume he submitted, who is he is a project manager. I mean, he has carpentry experience, but that's generally not what the planning board is looking for. And the last member of the planning board who resigned actually cited in his resignation letter his dissatisfaction with how the planning board was treated by the town board. So I can't imagine that the rest of the town board is willing to appoint someone whose qualifications, and I know at the last meeting, Paul, you said qualifications don't matter. I'm a big believer in qualifications. Somebody whose qualifications are exactly what a planning board would want because he's running for a town board and he's of a different political party. I think that's very disingenuous.
I don't think political party takes into effect. I think a qualification would be living in this town for more than 6 months. He hasn't even lived in the county for 6 months.
Political party did come into it, and I really don't want to go through it. Well, not for you.
So I'm saying that that's how I feel, that I think that you should live in this town for more than 6 months to apply for a board.
Well, then I guess I should have been kicked off the stormwater. I was the chairwoman of that committee for very many years. We made a lot of progress. We kept up with all the requirements from New York State. We produced videos that are, on our website that give great information to the public because I was dedicated to being in this town. I wanted to make a commitment to this town. I don't think you have to live here 20 years or how many years has...
Not 20 years, maybe a year, maybe 1 year. Live here for a year, experience the town, learn the town, and then go for it.
So we should turn down someone that the planning board thinks is eminently qualified for someone they think is nice.
I'm not saying that I would vote for the other person. I'm just saying that my opinion for Pappas is that I would prefer someone who's a resident, who has lived here for more than 6 months.
For the record, I was trying to chase down Councilman Chen for quite some time, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I explained to Councilman Chen how I felt. And I've been back and forth with this appointment because he's running against me in November. And that kind of bothers me a little bit.
Not against you, Bill.
He's running against me in November. And that sort of, and knowing that he just moved into town, that was a concern for me. So I will vote my conscience tonight. I've been here 65 years and trying to shake things up as far as the Main Street and some of the other things here, and it just seems we go backwards, and we need to move ahead. So I would call for a vote, and let's get this going.
You know, interestingly, and I guess it doesn't have, because I've been told the advisory board and all these other boards are different. We have a member on the Lake Carmel advisory board, I'm not going to mention any names, who recently moved to town and is really a star. I mean, this gentleman is absolutely sterling. He does so much volunteering. I mean, he goes out of his way. He has gotten involved. He comes to the Lake Association meetings. He wants to get involved with CSLAP. He went to, you know, a conference. He runs the Facebook page. I mean, there is nothing that we cannot ask of this volunteer. And I have to say, if we would have said to him, well, you haven't lived here long enough, you have to live here 5 years, or you have to live here 3 years, or you can't have political aspirations, or you have to be of our party, or you can't be doing these, we wouldn't have a lot of the people we have on boards. And I think it's unfortunate, and I guess Scott and I are in the minority, that we have now all of these qualifications that we never had before. Let me tell you, we had these spots on the planning board open since last year.
No, we haven't.
And no one
No, we
came
haven't.
forward.
That's completely untrue. Mr. Brunner resigned a few months ago.
Right, but we had an earlier
had-
position that was vacant.
Which we had applications to.
We had
this,
two.
This
We had two.
position has been open for a month or two. And the idea that, listen, I think you're talking about Brett. He's a great guy on the Lake Carmel
He is a
Park
great guy.
District. But that doesn't change the fact that the planning board is a very, very unique body. It is a 7-year term that cannot be removed by this town board. It is a state-mandated term. Once we appoint a member to the planning board, he has infinite discretion and ability to go forward as he wants. The town board has no advisory role whatsoever. We cannot hire and fire planning board members. They control projects that come in and out of this town. They can single-handedly, by denial or approval of a project, send a neighborhood into turmoil or send a developer into bankruptcy. This is a very important spot. And the idea that we're going to have somebody who fills more of the lobbyist, bureaucrat type of role, as opposed to the type who works with applicants, who works with developers, who works with his hands for the people building the buildings that are applying to the planning board. I just have a fundamental disagreement of the type of person I want to see in the planning board. It is the town board's obligation to put forward who they believe will fit the mold of a planning board appointee best. And that's why I will not be supporting Mr. Pappas, and I will be supporting Mr. Gattucci if it comes to a vote.
Well, I think, though, Paul, with your comment previously about how we need to interview everybody, since the only person on this town board apparently that knows Mr. Gattucci is you, I think that you would then support that we would have to interview him and maybe see if other people's neighbors want to apply as well. I mean,
That's
I think
fine.
then we need a...
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think then let's get a big pool.
I just want to add my 2 cents. My name is Erica Nitz. I've been in Town of Kent almost 4 years now. Before I even bought my house, my Lake Association asked me to be on the board. And when I got on, Maureen can testify, I've gotten 30 volunteers for Kent Cleanup Day and done a great deal of work in property maintenance and improvement of the looks of Hillendale. I don't think how long somebody has been here should contribute to the decision. I think they're more enthusiastic when they start before they can get burnt out by the politics.
Come on up.
I'd like to, I'm Pat Madigan, I co-chair that Lake Carmel Park District Advisory Board that Maureen is mentioning. We do have 7 members on our committee. One of the members particularly that Maureen is talking about is outstanding. Absolutely. We have come together with him, but let me tell you something. Before he went on the board, he came to meetings, and we approached him to see if he wanted to join. Lake Carmel Park District is a whole different ballgame than the planning of our town. Second of all, his volunteer work is something that is not measured by the response about what is going on. It is measured just by our community. I was one of 3 people that went upstate, went to a water conference. He has great ideas. He steps up all the time. But it is not the same kind of role as a zoning or planning department, not at all. And again, let me mention, he is not here a very long time. However, as soon as he moved, he started to volunteer, then went on the board. He didn't just walk on the board.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a comment. I was listening earlier to, and I think there's a relationship between what was discussed tonight with Lou Fernandez and the rec department and then what we're talking about here in the planning board. And on the surface doesn't look like they're related, but what I'm hearing as a resident is that in both cases, there doesn't appear to be, and I might be wrong about my ignorance, but doesn't appear to be policies in place and whereby, for example, in the rec department, if you have a bidding, and there was a great thought that you shared on a bidders conference. Anybody in business knows that's the way that's done. You have a meeting, you give people ample time, you formulate questions, you give them time, ample time to respond, and then you make a decision based on it. And if people don't respond even to the bidders conference, they're automatically dismissed, because it is a litmus test as to whether or not they're relevant. Same thing in a planning board, and while it seems, again, maybe unrelated, if it's a 6-month requirement and that's on the books, then it's got to be 6 months. Now, if it's not, then there should be other stipulated issues related to that. Again, I think people, in town would want to know that these are guidelines. The planning board is pretty important, right? So I would think that you'd want to have those guidelines and they're adhered to and publicized so people know exactly what's required and how that plays out. Whether it's the timing, whether it's how many years you live here, whether it's your credentials, all that should be on public record and available. So I just thought I would throw that
and
out.
we've never had that. I mean, like I said, I was here 5 months. I knew nothing about stormwater, and I was appointed the chairwoman of the Stormwater Committee, unanimous board. I worked very hard. I learned a lot about stormwater. I know a lot more about stormwater now than I did then, but there was no litmus test. They didn't ask me that, they didn't care that I was a Democrat and the board was all Republicans at the time. They didn't care that I had just moved here 5 years ago. They were looking for somebody to lead. I mean, I actually was involved in setting up the committee. It didn't even exist at the time. We set it up. And that's fine. If now we're going to set these kind of qualifications, then fine. Then maybe we need to set what the qualifications are. But I would just like to read part of an email from the Planning Board chairperson after interviewing both Mr. Gattucci and Mr. Pappas. He has no direct experience to planning, erosion control, seeker, and other areas on which a planning board spends most of its time. That lack of experience is certainly not a bar to becoming a planning board member. However, since we are currently in the very unusual and very advantageous position of having another candidate for the open seat on the Town of Kent Planning Board who is highly qualified and experienced in those areas, the planning board members voted unanimously to reaffirm our recommendation of Stephen Pappas to fill the seat. Mr. Pappas was an active member of the Town of Clarkstown Planning Board in Rockland County for almost 5 years prior to moving to Kent. He has significant experience with the review and approval of land subdivision, site development, seeker review, special permit applications. In other words, basically all the issues with which a planning board spends the vast majority of its time. That's fine. We can turn down this eminently qualified candidate.
If I could just make one quick follow-up point, please. It wasn't whether or not 6 months, for example, is a litmus test, but once you set whatever guidelines they are, my point was that that should be publicized and then followed. And maybe 6 months isn't relevant or not. Maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's a day. But the point is, there has to be some guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say I completely dispute the idea that you have to that we want basically a planning board person, a professional planner of some sort, as every member of the planning board. The planning board was set up as a citizen board of our neighbors to help determine the type of the development the town wants. It's not supposed to be a board of lobbyists and lawyers. It's not what it's supposed to be. And the planning board spends thousands and thousands of dollars on expert stormwater opinions, on engineering opinions, on all of these different opinions. They're supposed to be the guys that are in tune, and girls, that are in tune with their neighbors, in tune with the town, and just want to make the right decision and can take it case by case. One of the candidates works in the field that the applicants are from. I think that's very important. The idea that the planning board wants a certain type of person on the planning board makes total sense for them, but it doesn't make sense for the town. The town should have somebody who's going to go in there and make the right decision, defer to the experts when necessary, and move on. The chairman of the planning board, who thinks all these qualifications are very great, had no qualifications like that when he came on, and now he's the chair. I mean, I think he's a writer or a publicist. I mean, and that's fine. We want people from all aspects of life who've been in our town, who know what's best development-wise for the town. We don't need another professional planning bureaucrat type person on the planning board. We have enough of those.
Well, and again, I mean, I think we should end this. I have to disagree. I think we want people that understand planning. And I think that we also want to give respect to our planning board, because part of the resignation of our former planning board member said part of the reason that he resigned was because 3 of the town board members made false and derogatory remarks about the planning board. I was very disappointed. In spite of the issues I've been dealing with, I take great exception to the comments made. This matter was discussed at the planning board workshop held on April 6, 2017. It was clear to me and others, both on and off the planning board, that there is a vendetta against the planning board and a conspiracy to undermine the responsibilities of the planning board and to tarnish their reputation.
I'm behind a conspiracy. Yep.
So, you know, I think that,
But in that
let's
same
move
email,
on.
didn't it also say that he was unhappy with how the planning board treated him as well?
Right. So, I mean, we'll move on from this. I certainly, you know, as Councilman Chin suggested, we'll put it to a vote on Mr. Pappas, and we'll continue to advertise for more candidates.
My question is really, I know how hard it is to get volunteers for anything, particularly something as demanding and important as the planning board. But I don't, with only 2 candidates coming forward for such an important position, I mean, we just had the same issue, you just had the same issue with the playground. Only 2 came forward. So if Mr. Pappas passes, the question is moot. If Mr. Pappas does not pass, I would ask that the council think about different ways to advertise the position and maybe broaden a pool of people that maybe can reach more of a consensus among the council members.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda, I seem to have lost my agenda, is the Lake Carmel Park District, the removal of the dock behind AT Town Court. We had this on at the last meeting, but since it was on for the first time, we said we would put it over again for this meeting to have people actually be able to review. So,
Is there any more other docks in Lake Carmel that need to be looked at? The last meeting they had, last meeting they said there was 10 docks in Lake Carmel. Is there any other docks that need to be looked at? I thought
there
somebody
were-
was going to.
Well, the building inspector did go around and take some pictures of some of the other existing docks. I mean, I think that we need to have a dock policy. But with this particular dock, this dock was brought to our attention, and the code enforcer went out and took a look at it. And in his report, he said there's no evidence of rot, et cetera, but he did say that although solidly constructed, the safety of anybody using the dock would be severely compromised by the forward listing of the structure. Lacking a newly built support structure, this dock would have to be removed in the interest of public safety.
And nobody
So-
claims that they did it or own it, right? And who would be paying for this?
Well, I mean, I think we have to explore how we would go about taking it down, whether we would have to bid it out or if it's something
Park
that
District?
Park District could do. So,
Budget?
so I think tonight we can just decide whether or not we want to take it down, and then we can speak to the Park District crew chief, see if that's something that he would be able to do, or if we have to bid it.
Maybe that's a good idea. Yeah.
All right? But I think that we should, you know, decide how we want to proceed.
Fine with me.
Any comment? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the cleanup of 10 Ridgeway Road. You can see the pictures. The owner was given a notice of violation. They failed to make the corrections, and you can see by the pictures that this property is in need of a cleanup. Our code enforcer contacted 3 contractors and only received 1 bid, so I recommend that we go forward and with F.I. Adams on this. It was $500 to clean up the property. Any discussion?
No.
Okay, the next item is the fire inspector. Lakeview Community Church is going to be holding a tag sale, and there was an inspection of the premises, and there's a little diagram of the tag sale, and our fire inspector has signed off on the operating permit, so he has asked that we just approve that permit.
Can you make sure our Kent Police are notified?
I think our Kent Police Chief is right here.
I know, I don't know if it was added on to the form, but I just want to make sure Kent PD is aware of it. It's very dangerous in and out on 52.
Yeah, that's on the 16th of September with a rain date on the 17th.
Thank you.
And the next item is the ownership status of a little piece of property adjacent to 29 Amawalk Road. And Nancy, if you'd like to take this.
We've had a request from the owners of 29 Amawalk Road to review the status of the small parcel adjacent to theirs that has historically been used for access to their property. It's their only means of ingress and egress. I spoke to our highway superintendent, who's indicated that it looks like it was intended to be a paper road at one time, but it was never formally dedicated, although the strip of property does appear to be owned by the town. So what they want to try to do is resolve who owns it, if the town wants it, they want to be able to continue to use it for access to their property and incorporate it onto their property.
Nance, several years ago, and I don't know if we've done this in a while, especially when we see all the zombie homes around, we used to put small pieces of property up for bid to help neighbors who might need extra land for their septics and stuff like this. I don't know if our town clerk, who's really good on records, has anything that went back where we did this and was this piece of property on that bid. And if we need to do this again to recoup some money, where it might benefit a neighbor that needs, especially some of the homes in Lake Carmel, these houses are so close to each other. But years ago, we actually had a bid to try to sell these pocket pieces of property. And it'd be interesting to see, if we look back at history, to see if Amawalk Road is on that.
Lana is saying that those were Park District properties that were next.
Amawalk is in the Park District, right?
But we did sell small parcels that the Park District owns in between, so they would offer it to the existing homeowners.
Right.
Right.
But was Amawalk on there?
I'll have to look.
Yeah.
How don't you know this, Lana?
Just one.
You've got some good records. You really do a great job. But if nobody's using it and we can put it on the tax rolls, makes sense.
Right, and this little piece of property you can see from the survey is really adjacent to this individual's property, to the 29 Amawalk.
And there's no record in the county clerk's office that the town of Kent owns this parcel, right?
No, we actually talked to Lisa Johnson in the Real Property Tax Office, and
Well,
she
you-
couldn't confirm that either.
I mean-
A little lost parcel.
Yeah, if there's nothing in the clerk's office, there's really nothing for us to convey. Or if we did convey it, we would just quit claim it. We say, whatever interest we had in it, we no longer have. I don't know how much money you could get when you're basically conveying something you don't own.
Right.
So.
Well, I guess.
Well,
just
I
the-
think when we did that decision strip
Yeah.
for that property on
Weinstein, the Weinstein property.
Yeah.
I think that
And
was
I would
like
just
$600 something that the town recouped
recommend we
from
do
that.
due diligence, because the neighbor across the street might be interested in that land too, as far as any type of public hearing. I don't know, just to make sure, because our experience with a stop sign.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just that without this strip, the owners of 29 Amawalk have no access to their property.
Yeah, they probably have an easement by necessity, so
Yeah.
right, they've been using this, there's a fence around it, they've been using it openly for a long period of time, and it's necessary for their ingress and egress. So they probably have an easement, so now you have a tiny property which somebody else has an easement to that you don't even have a deed to give them, so hey, if people want to bid on it, we'll start the bidding at what? I mean, you guys can come up, but other than that, I mean...
So then how would we actually, if we don't even have a deed to this,
We would quit claim it.
We could quit claim it, or maybe we could tell them to get a lot line change done and file that in the county clerk's office so that they would have, they'd have to get a new description of their property, but to tack it onto their land. But we'd have to sign off on that.
We do need a
Can't do
public
it?
hearing to sell town property.
Excuse me?
We do need a public hearing to sell town property.
But we haven't even really established
I know,
That
but
it's
if-
ours.
But if we're doing a quitclaim deed, are we not?
If we choose
We
the quit claim
can't,
deed route, yeah.
in this case, in this instance, just like in the Weinstein instance, if we can't come to some agreement, the next step will be a lawsuit, which if we were to settle that and just quit claim it to them, then we wouldn't have to get a sum of money or have a public hearing. So those are our options. Basically have a public hearing, offer it up to everyone, and sell it, or do nothing and wait and see if they commence a litigation.
I'd be in favor of a public hearing. I don't know who else is going to want to
Yeah.
buy this except the person whose
And they'd
driveway
have
is
to
on
take
it.
it with an easement.
When they have to take it with an easement. So.
Now, would we be able to do we need something more formal, though, to set a public hearing? We wouldn't be able to set this for the 5th, or would we?
We could. We can set a public hearing.
Yeah.
I'll give Lana a notice to publish.
Yeah. I mean, is that acceptable to everybody that we put it on for a public hearing on the 5th? We'll do the change in the bonds and the, okay. I don't think this one will take too long. Okay. Any other comments about that property? All right, we have some announcements.
I got two.
Okay.
I actually have a lot, but I'll go easy on you tonight. I inquired about the electrical outages that are impacting, I don't know about you, but they're impacting me over in that way in Nichols Street. And I got a full answer, okay, and I gave it to the town clerk and our town board members. And basically, it's the numerous risks: wind, ice, snow, lighting, vegetation, vehicle accidents, animal intrusion, the aging of our facilities. When I heard about the aging of facilities, I'm concerned that, well, here comes the rate increase. But after I got this past week, I had 3 outages, and they're quick. Some of them are quick. But we want to just pursue a little bit and see what can be done. Thank God it's not winter. But the last several months, it just seems to be, and I'm seeing this on Facebook. It's not just my problem. It's all our problems. And I just see that there's a new president that just started July 1st, and I think they got to hear from us a little bit further, because I hear that Pound Ridge and some of them already have united and stuff. So I'm going to stay on this, and I've been dealing with a rep from NYSEG, and I believe Maureen has been dealing with the lady too, Kathleen Abels. But I think NYSEG, and I had a lot of friends that work for NYSEG, nothing against the men, but the equipment, I'm hearing this, and changes, financial issues, but they got to know where Kent is. And 3 outages this past week after I got the answer, and start counting. It's a big impact the last 4 or 5 months. All of a sudden, a lot of electrical outages. The other thing is, the lady in the audience, I just want to do a call out, and I'm sure Maureen and the town board will do this, for volunteers. Beautification committee, okay? I'm the liaison, and we need help in the beautification. We put up some new signs. Cleanup day has been tremendous, and I thank you. We picked up a lot of garbage and stuff, but we need everybody to pitch in and help in your neighborhoods. Historical Society, we need volunteers. We'll be forming a recreation advisory board, and we need people to step up and provide advocacy and budget recommendations. The town board voted to have a recreation advisory board, and I'm getting some samples, and we're going to be passing that out. I mentioned this to some of the council people. The library. I mean, there's so many different volunteers. Park District, stormwater. I think you got 1 person on stormwater.
We have 2.
Stormwater plays a big role in our town, especially around the lake. They need to be clean, maintained, but we need a 3 or 4 member committee. Maureen was on it. Step up and be involved in our town. We're trying to see if we're going to, at least I'm trying to see to revitalize the Kent Revitalization Commission and form a nonprofit. Route 52 is, some of the eyesores and stuff. And I know legally we have handcuffs, but we need to change some of that stuff. And I know there's a gentleman in the audience in the back that I'll be visiting too, because he's very knowledgeable. But that's it.
Thank you,
I got plenty more next time, Maureen. I go easy on you tonight.
Okay, I just have a few announcements. The Kent Recreation and Parks 2017 movie series is continuing. August 9th, they're showing Moana, and August 23rd, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. These movies are free to the public at Edward Ryan Memorial Park. Join us at 7 p.m. on the night of each film for games and prizes. And you can go on the Town of Kent website and the rec department, and, you know, check out the movie poster. The next item on the agenda, on the announcements is the Needham Powwow. This year, it's on August 19th and August 20th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Putnam County Veterans Memorial Park. And there is no admission fee. There are movies, native foods, Native American dancing, arts and crafts. You can pick up a flyer in the lobby. These are available. And it's really a wonderful, wonderful event. The other thing that I keep hawking is the Lake Carmel Fire Department annual truck raffle. If you've driven by the fire department, you see this beautiful 2017 Chevy Silverado for, it's the grand prize. Second and third prizes are $1,000. Fourth and fifth prizes are $500. I'm sure you can approach any member of the Lake Carmel Fire Department to buy a raffle ticket, or our own building inspector, Bill Walters. Okay, that's all the announcements I have. Anybody else? Okay, and now what we've all been waiting for is public comment. So we have a number of individuals in the audience this evening, and I think if everybody wants to speak, maybe let's try to go row by row. Will you jump? Okay. Yeah.
Sure. It's part of my presentation. My name is Shauna Tarsha-Stankinson. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I would like to address the proposed opening and the Town Zoning Board's approval of a zoning variance for a cement plant on Route 52 directly across the street from our community. There's copies of this if you want it. I'm an environmental planner. Sorry. My name is Shauna Tarsha-Stankinson, and I'm a resident of Hillendale Country Club. I have a master's degree in environmental planning from Harvard University, was the recipient of the United States Department of Environmental Protection Air Pollution Fellowship, and spent 2 years working on watershed management and air pollution emissions banking policy at the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. I therefore feel that I do have a background that makes me somewhat qualified to speak on this topic. In discussing this proposal, I think it's important to begin by recognizing the characteristics of the site. Our community and the site of the proposed cement plant are both in a dual sensitive environmental area. These properties are located in the New York State DEC managed wetlands, and they are in the New York City watershed. Second, the site is close to residential properties that not only need to have their use respected, but rely on groundwater for drinking and septic tanks for sewerage. They are not serviced by water lines or the sewage treatment plant. Palmer Lake in Hillendale has already had noticeable degradation since the opening of the new water treatment plant in Kent. Third, Route 52 is a 2-lane highway with only 1 traffic lane in each direction, as well as pedestrians and bicyclists using the road's small shoulder. The concrete plant, from what is little is known, will be operated by a non-union company currently in Bronx, New York, that has 50 large concrete trucks. A few months ago, Hillendale experienced a major silt incursion from the site of the proposed concrete plant when the owners removed a retaining wall without permits and the land mass eroded into our lake. The number of issues that have not been addressed prior to the zoning board's action to override the building inspector's decision to deny a zoning variance are staggering. I would like to mention just some of them. Water issues. Where is the concrete plant getting its water? Will it be consuming water in quantities sufficiently large as to lower the water level to the point where residents' wells become ineffective? When the trucks are washed out each day, where will the dirty water go? What chemicals are in the dirty water from the trucks? The presence of some substances in concrete, including additives like chromium, crystalline silica, which studies indicate a link between exposure and lung cancer, can cause health concerns due to toxicity and radioactivity. The presence of strontium, chromium, nickel, lead, arsenic, cadmium, and other heavy metals are also present, which cause it to be classified as a hazardous waste by the EPA. Permits are required from New York State under RCRA for hazardous waste disposal. Will the water enter the groundwater? If so, how will it be filtered? How will processed byproducts be handled? How does the plant intend to comply with the Clean Water Act, including Section 404 dredge and fill permit issued by the Army Corps of Engineers and discharge permit issued by New York State? Have the plant owners performed New York State environmental impact statement as required? Air issues. Is the facility fully encapsulated? What level of emissions will be emitted by the cement plant? What types of air filtration systems are being used? How will the dust from unbagging cement be mitigated? How will the dust be mitigated when loading the dry materials into the trucks? Concrete trucks are one of the major sources of ozone emissions in the country. Given that 50 large trucks will be staging, idling, slowed by traffic, and running while making the concrete, how will this be mitigated? How does the cement plant intend to comply with the Clean Air Act as required by New York State? Traffic issues. With up to 50 trucks arriving each morning to be filled and every afternoon returning to be cleaned, there will not be enough staging area in the lot. Therefore, spillback will occur on Route 52. In the morning, that will interfere with school buses, causing longer ride times. The site is proximate to the Carmel schools and is heavily used by the buses. How will this be mitigated? How will emergency vehicles be able to get to their destinations in a timely way during morning and afternoon periods when trucks are clogging Route 52? These trucks require wide turns which cannot be accommodated by the current roadway geometry. How will legal turns be facilitated and enforced? With limited sight lines of these large vehicles, what protections will be implemented for pedestrian safety? Miscellaneous. Since these trucks are so heavy when loaded, how will this affect the many fault lines in the area? With a non-union facility, how will safety and OSHA standards be enforced? What is the plan to mitigate noise for these large, loud trucks? This is not a full listing of all the issues and problems that will be created by the addition of the cement plant on Route 52. Given that there are no answers to all these questions, that no environmental impact study has been done, that no feasibility study of connecting this facility to the new sewage treatment plant has been done, it seems completely unreasonable for any approvals related to this project to be considered, let alone given. I respectfully request that this board pursue legal remediation to have the zoning board rescind their previous approval regarding the proposed cement plant and refrain from any approvals until such time as all environmental, traffic, and safety concerns have been adequately addressed and guarantees given that all such impacts will be mitigated. Thank you.
Talk about qualified. Nancy, do you want to respond?
Do you want a question? I'm not sure that there was a question.
Yeah.
There was no question.
But I just want to clarify that the Zoning Board of Appeals didn't grant a variance. They found that there was an existing use variance from 1948. So it's not like they gave approvals.
Yeah.
Did everybody hear that?
I don't know.
Somebody's talked. Did everybody hear what she just said?
No. The Zoning Board of Appeals did not grant a variance for the construction or the maintenance of a concrete plant. They found that there was an existing use variance from 1948, which is permanent and runs with the land, meaning that that use can I'm not here to debate you. I'm just telling you what the Zoning Board of Appeals found. I'm clarifying what the Zoning Board of Appeals found. I'm not defending their actions. I'm not upholding them. I'm just clarifying for you so you have the right information. They didn't grant an approval.
If the use...
Into the mic.
Okay, just a follow-up questions. I'm sorry. If the use has not been in effect for a certain period, does it go away?
Not if it's a use variance. If it was a pre-existing non-conforming use, then yes. If they don't carry on that use for a period of 2 years,
or 18 months, or 18 months within a 2-year aggregate, then they would have lost the use. But the zoning board found that they always had the use and that it was permanent, meaning that it runs with the land.
However,
And that was the building inspector's position.
And people here should know that the town board supported the building inspector and paid for legal services to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting and put written submissions in supporting his determination.
Can the zoning board change the zoning of an area? Was that
No, only
in
the town board can change the zoning of an area, and that requires a change to the town code.
Has the
That's
town,
different from a use variance.
has that, then I change my recommendation and make it a broader one, that I would hope that the town board would use its powers and its creativity to do what it can to make sure that this neighborhood and this town is not impacted by what is considered one of the dirtiest industries in this country.
Guys, this is
You need to come to the microphone and state your name.
Everybody that wants to speak.
And that's not my saying dirty industry, that's the government agencies and the environmental groups.
Don't get the impression that I'm here to debate with any of you. I was the one who went to the ZBA meetings and defended the building inspector's determination, so. And I think you just cut off 2 people that were waiting.
That's okay, because I don't want to lose this point. They could do it in a second. This is the most
If I were you, I
important.
would ask them, but that's up to you.
This is the most important decision you guys will have to make ever. Whatever you've done in the past, don't laugh. Don't give me that smirk. Because who cares about a park when all the kids in the park are going to have cancer?
Excuse me.
This is the most important decision you'll ever have to make. You need to be on our side. You talked before about people in the town being part of what needs to happen.
If you were here last week, I
wasn't.
I admonished the zoning board. I said it was a terrible decision. I supported the hiring of legal counsel to go against it. We've been in executive session fighting this the whole time.
Okay.
You don't need to say it's the most important decision of my lifetime to make a perfectly legitimate point that this is a bad decision. The zoning board was 100% wrong, and the town board should make every effort within its legal ability.
That's right.
That's all.
Okay. So what are you guys doing right at this moment to stop this from happening? Well, what are you all using every bit of your essence to fight this? Because this is, in my mind, the most important thing ever to happen to Kent. It seems like it's nothing, but when you have 50 trucks rolling in, mixing cement, blowing silica all over the neighborhood, that's a major thing, and I don't think there's been anything worse than that ever in Kent. Thank you.
Erica Nitz, Hillendale Board member, proud neighbor of Shauna Denkinson, bachelor in biology, minor in chemistry, University of Illinois. I represent 140 homes, 200 plus voters, and just want to let you know, Hillendale Board is vehemently opposed to allowing the cement plant. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Aldo Vitaliano. I'm an attorney down in Westchester County. I'm representing some of the neighbors. I have experience. I've been practicing for 35 years. I was town attorney for the town of Rye for 10 years, corporation counsel for the village of Portchester for several years. I did work for the county board in Westchester County. I've done extensive zoning work over the years. I have co-counsel with me, a fellow by the name of Philip Grimaldi, who's done special counsel work for the village of Ardsley on the elimination of nonconforming uses. So we come to you having represented the neighbors. I'm going to give one gratuitous comment, and that is relative to Amawalk Road. Somebody should order a title search to see who owns the property.
That's been done.
That's kind of a good point.
It's been done.
Then you kind of know who owns it for it. So anyway, your counsel has commented that there was a very, very specific issue that was before the zoning board. We believe that in July, when your zoning board issued a 12-page decision on the matter of Kent investors, that they were totally wrong in their decision for it. Kent was appealing what we believe was a correct decision of your building inspector, that the concrete plant could not be open since the use was abandoned for failure to operate it during a period required by your code. The decision capped one hearing on a matter. It was a June hearing on this, and at that hearing, I spoke briefly, and I asked the zoning board to keep the hearing open to allow neighbors to put additional information in. And I was totally shocked. In all my years of municipal experience, they chose, okay, to close the hearing and just allow legal comments coming in. I was totally shocked. We said we needed time to try to check in the records. I could say that we've been trying to dig through the town records, and it takes a little while to get them produced for us. But the zoning board, it's their board, they're entitled to do what they want to do. They closed the hearing, and they allowed for legal comments to come in. We submitted a legal brief. Their 12-page decision rebuts some of that on it. And they basically articulated that, well, we thought it was an area variance that might have been granted in 1948 and gave case law to that effect. They believed it was a use variance. But then they went on to, in our opinion, incorrectly state that a use variance continues forever. If they had a use variance for a nuclear reactor, it stays a nuclear reactor forever, no matter what for it. And we pointed out a Court of Appeals case, the Emery case, where identical situation, use variance, it had been abandoned, and the Court of Appeals said, no, it's a non-conforming use for it. So we believe that there is a absolutely legitimate legal argument to appeal the decision of the zoning board. In our fact-finding in the past couple of days, okay, and none of these facts can go in front of the zoning board right now because they closed their hearing. So no new evidence can come in, but we're still looking for facts because we thought it was kind of interesting that the only piece of paper that was substantiating this was one piece of paper from 1948. It was like the Holy Grail had been discovered, and it was discovered, it seemed, by somebody pointing in the right direction of where to look for it, okay? But in their decision, they state on page 12 that the town of Kent and its officials have never characterized the use as one permitted due to nonconformity. Always was a use variance, absolutely use variance for it. And yet, in our discovery, we found a memo going back to November 28, 1998, okay, from a Bob Rogers. I don't know if it's the same Bob Rogers who's on the board right now, okay, and it says, it was relative to the question of Putnam Concrete's application. It says use interpretation, is the current use non-conforming? And the action by the board determined this use to be non-conforming. Page 10, they've never characterized the use as one permitted due to nonconformity. 1998, nonconforming use for it, and it doesn't relate to a trailer. It relates to a tower, it relates to the whole operation if you see the memo that went to the planning board with it. So just to clarify, your attorney and I have...
I just looked at it quickly, although I didn't have time.
I understand, I'm looking at this quickly too, and believe me, when we showed up at the hearing in June, we had looked at things quickly for it, but we were not given an opportunity to continue. So, it's a wrong decision. There are actions that need to be taken. We did cite a Court of Appeals case, which gives you good support for it. Our recommendation to the town, I'm going to step into my municipal counseling mode. We believe in Article 78 has to be taken within 30 days from when the decision is filed with your town clerk. It is not unprecedented for town boards to bring Article 78s against their zoning board. It has happened on many times. I've come up with some cases, and one that we know for sure, Town of Harrison against their zoning board with the town board won. And there are probably others. It's hard to do a search for town boards suing its zoning board, but we'll continue to do some research on that. If we were able to present additional evidence, we could have showed a newspaper article that shows that initially the plant was just a concrete block plant. That's all it was. They were making blocks back then. And that sometime over the years, it became a ready-mix plant, probably in the 70s. And that's a much more intensive use. And we can't find evidence of, well, was there site plan approval or was there a variance to expand your use? The 1998 decision we're talking about was an expansion of the non-conforming use. But again, it's not a non-conforming use, it's a use variance that lasts forever for it. So bottom line is that there is support in your records for a decision to overturn the zoning board on this. There's also a drop-back position. And the drop-back position, to answer a question, or to answer, I guess it was a question that was asked, there is a mechanism in town law under the zoning provisions 267A where there can be a rehearing. But a rehearing has to be a unanimous vote of the Zoning Board of Appeals. So the easy way out for this is for the town board to pass a resolution insisting that your zoning board opens up the hearing again, that they agree at their next meeting to reopen the hearing, to open the doors, turn the lights on, let everybody come in now that everybody knows what's going on, and present additional evidence on this point. The zoning board did not cite our Court of Appeals case that we pointed out. They cited everything else. This is wrong, that's wrong, this wrong. They didn't cite that case. So at a minimum, there's something that needs to get done for it.
And to your point about reopening the hearing, I had a discussion late this afternoon, and I can't really, I don't want to really, go into too much detail about it. But I did have a discussion late this afternoon with someone about the possibility of reopening the hearing. It was kind of too late in the day for us to get a legal opinion on it, to consult the town attorney, and to consult a number of other people that we need to consult. But clearly this is an issue that people are very passionate about. I mean, I personally live in the Hillendale neighborhood that's going to be impacted. As the town board, I mean, we have to follow the law. But if the Zoning Board of Appeals could legally reopen the public hearing on this, I do not think they would be opposed to doing that. I mean, it's unfortunate that at the time we had the public hearing that a lot of, what is being said now perhaps wasn't said at the public hearing, and that would have been an ideal time. And I had a conversation with someone today who, said, "Oh, it wasn't really advertised, and we didn't know about it." The town doesn't send out notices about, every public hearing we have, whether it be Zoning Board of Appeals or town board, but they are on the website. And I really encourage people, I know, having been, an activist in this town before becoming supervisor, that I was always really aware of when, an issue that I found really important was going to be on, and tried to be available. Not to minimize, the passion that's here this evening, or whatever reason people couldn't come for the June 19th. But reopening the Zoning Board of Appeals public hearing is certainly something that I think is being looked, that is being looked into.
So just to clarify, not interrupt, but just to clarify, the way the case was framed was very narrowly framed. So some of the planning considerations may not be appropriate or the right time for it, but certainly whether site plan approval is required by the planning board, by the town, certainly may need to be addressed in another forum.
I was just going to say, I think the least the town board can do tonight is to pass a resolution recommending the zoning board reopen the hearing. Whether we have the power to do that or not, we are not stopped from doing it. When the meeting opens up, I'll make a motion to add an item to the agenda to pass that resolution, and I hope that the board passes it, and legal counsel can take it afterwards. But we're not here again until September 5th, barring special meeting, and I think we should.
Well, I have to say, I mean, on this, I would prefer if, if we explore whether the zoning board can reopen the public hearing, and then I would be willing to have a special meeting just on this one issue to vote on that.
That was my concern, because there's very short statute, a very short time to appeal this,
Right.
and, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying that if the zoning board can't open it, if this attorney is wrong, right, the zoning board can't open it.
I have the law here.
They can.
But I'm saying it. Okay, yeah. Us making a resolution one way or the other, it could only be a good thing. If it turns out they don't open it or they can't open it, fine. But the town board should get on the record tonight and say whether they believe the zoning board should reopen the hearing or not.
And I would ask before I step aside that if they choose not to, that this board be prepared to bring in Article 78 against your own zoning board. Thank you.
Aldo, could I just ask a question? Your clients are not prepared to bring an Article 78 proceeding?
They are prepared to bring an Article 78 proceeding on it, and they likely will, and they likely would intervene if the town brought it. But it just brings a lot more weight when it goes in front of a judge, if it's a town board that's bringing the action. You always have the question of standing. You know, can somebody from the west side of town, the east side of town, be involved?
I would have thought that it would have brought more weight if there were affected residents
Yeah.
bringing in Article 78,
And
because
certainly-
it affects their property values, their health, all those things.
Right.
But again, it's a legal issue that the zoning board has articulated.
Right. I mean, certainly I've spoken to members of of kind of the two major communities impacted by this this plant, and it would seem that if the two communities, I mean, I'm not giving legal advice, but if the two communities join together to file an Article 78, I would think that that would carry some weight as well.
Join the town board in filing 78, and we all do it together. Because if we have the town board behind us, that's strong.
Well, I mean, if the zoning board reopens the hearing, then there's no need to, would there be a need to file?
If the zoning board reopens the hearing, then there's no need to file an Article 78 at this time.
Right. And here we have Bob Bradley of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
I was listening to what was going on. I wasn't going to say anything, but I might as well face our critics. The issue that came before the zoning board was an extremely limited one, and it was limited as to the fact of a very poorly written 1948 decision, which was based on a very poorly written 1937 zoning law. The information that we're giving at a public hearing, basically, was that if we had decided the legal question about the fact of this being a use variance at that time. I know that the town council didn't agree with us. There were people who didn't agree with us. We thought at the time that we would do what was best when it came to the fact of the law in this particular case. All of the questions that you brought up are probably true. And, but the issues for the environment, we didn't issue a variance. If we had issued a use variance, number one, a use variance would probably never be given on this property now because of the criteria for a use variance are so high that they would never meet it. So currently, a use variance would have not been granted by the board. I can absolutely guarantee that. All of the issues in a use variance as part of seeker and as part of all the environment issues would have been brought up, and it would have been the proper form at that time to do it. But the question before us was extremely limited, and it was limited only to that legal issue of going back to 1948, of which I was alive, but probably not. And also, I was living in Kent at that time too, so it was a. But the that is what was presented to us. So all of these issues, though, are factual, and probably you're absolutely correct with all of the environmental issues and the problems with it. That was not a part of our. Well, the part of it now. I mean, if in fact this goes to, it has to go to the planning board for site plan approval. We've already been asked if we would approve any other uses on the property besides this. And the question would be that we're not approving, we didn't approve the use. And that's something that's been an incredible misunderstanding. We did not improve the use. We found from a 1948 variance that that was a use variance. That's all we found.
Are you telling us that
I don't believe so, no.
Who can?
Well, the court. There's 45 days. There's 45 days to file an Article 78, I believe.
I think it's 30.
I don't know, is it 30 or 45?
It's 30.
30? Because that would have to be, I mean, even before we decide, if we decide to reopen it, if there's new evidence that comes to us that we would decide to reopen this, it still comes back to the question of that 1948 variance. And that seems to be what this whole thing hinges on, we could, I can't speak for the, I can't speak for the entire board.
Right.
But as far as the people on the board I've spoken with, we've always been willing to reopen things.
I think that in the board's decision, a lot of it was based on the pattern and practice of how the town treated the property and the use of the property over the years.
You're right.
But if we can come forward with evidence showing that it was treated as a non-conforming use or other uses, or not, that it wasn't a permitted use, then that might be, enough to sway you to overturn your decision and decide the other way, that it was the manufacturing use was a permitted use in 1948, and all they were asking for was a variance on one of the conditions as opposed to a use variance.
Yeah, one of the things for the people on the board who are lawyers, or the people out here, I'm not an attorney, but the question is that you can rule on what's presented to you at the time, and the facts that are presented in a public hearing, we can make a ruling on those facts.
Right.
And the facts that were presented to us that kind of stood out in everyone's mind was, one, there was this variance that was granted in 1948, and two was there was a consent judgment signed by the town in 2005 that legalized all of the uses on this property, and it was a consent judgment filed with the county. And that we were not a party to. That was the court, the plaintiff, the defendant, and the town attorney at that time. And that was not answered at all. I mean, when that came up as evidence.
I don't want to go over, I don't want to present my case again like I did to the ZBA, but the fact of the matter is the consent judgment had several conditions contained in it prior to them being able to use the property for that purpose.
Believe me, I
and many
understand
of them
that.
were not met.
No, that I understand.
Right.
And then the question became, this probably took us months and months, and it might not seem like it to the people, but it took us hours and hours and hours of this, and going over those legal cases. The file has got to be 3 inches thick. And with all of the legal briefs were read, and we went over all of the briefs, and we went over them with our attorney, with the zoning board attorney at great length. And he found that a lot of the cases that were given to us afterward were not on point. And that, we had to take the advice of counsel who's been with us probably for the past 20-something years, on all of these cases. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, if there are new facts that can be presented,
They might refute the pattern and practice that persuaded the board.
if things are put in the record at the hearing that we can hang our hat on, that's a whole different thing.
Now,
So it'd be kind of like we ran a practice session the first time.
Now, if the zoning board were going to reopen the public hearing, which kind of sounds like the best option in this situation, when would that decision be made? When would that be put before the...
Well, our next workshop meeting isn't the first Monday of August, which would be next Monday, would be our first workshop session.
Would you rescind your previous resolution at
Well,
that
we
time?
can't at a workshop meeting, but we can at a meeting. That's why I'm wondering about the time running on this. Because if it's 30 days and we meet the first Monday in August, and those meetings are like workshop meetings. I mean, they're more like, being in an executive session, even though people can come in.
Well, I mean,
But-
the town board can call a special meeting as long as we meet the notice requirements. Could the ZBA make the workshop also a second part of a special meeting, which if it was next Monday, would give everyone time to...
I would defer to the town attorney on that. I would think so. I mean,
I would think so.
Our workshop meetings are public. They're always held the first Monday of the month. And the third Monday of the month is our actual
Right, and
meeting.
the third Monday is too late.
No,
So,
but
I
I'm
mean-
saying, there is a public,
I think met because it's not convenient or it's not anything else. I think every bridge needs to be built to make this happen, and everything that can be done must be done.
Right,
Well-
and if you, and if you call for a meeting on next Monday, which would be August 7th, the 30 days from the decision is August.
When exactly was it
August
filed
17th?
with the
It
town
was
clerk?
filed on the 18th.
The 18th?
Right, so we'd be going till August 18th. So if you made the meeting on Monday, if you called a meeting as well as the work session on Monday, you could determine whether or not you're going to reopen the hearing. If you do, that would be great. If you don't, you'd still be giving people time to file an Article 78 before the deadline. All right, okay. Okay, so I think the 7th would still be, a good,
But again, just so the public understands, the only question that is before us is that 1948 variance.
Right.
And if anything speaks to the 1948 variance as to whether that was a use variance or whether it was a whatever else it was
An
in
area
1948.
variance in the nature of an area.
Yeah, but if it speaks to that particular issue, that would be something that we could certainly, take up.
Right.
But as far as the other issues, that's out of our purview right now. If they would ask, if let's say we find against them and they do ask for an area variance, that's when all of these things come in before the board. And that's the time when all of these questions about the environment and the air quality and all that come in at that point. But we're extremely limited as to what we're going to do now.
right. I just think that the town board would be unanimous in recommending that you make Monday a meeting, take a vote on whether or not you're going to reopen the public hearing. And if you do, then, these fine people that are here this evening and probably others would be interested in participating in the public hearing.
I have the motion drafted for us.
Okay. Well, do we need one if?
Well, I think we
That
should.
took happen through.
I think we should. I think we should.
Okay. Would anyone else like to be heard, or is this kind of a satisfactory plan of action?
I think there's a lot of things that just aren't clear to everyone here. I think, I'm Chris Poulin, by the way. I think everyone thinks this plant is going to commence operations in the next 2 months or something like that, and I don't think that's actually true. I don't think anyone really understands what this use variance means. Our friend from the Zoning Board of Appeals told us that all they did was confirm that it was a use variance. And what does that entitle this company to? Do they get to commence operations with the same environmental standards that they had back in 1948? What's going to happen, and when will this plant begin operation, and when will we be in trouble? Because we are going to be in trouble. I live right down the road from it. I'm just a couple houses away, and I have a son with special needs, and that's going to be a bad thing. And I can tell you this, I'm going to seriously consider leaving Kent if this happens. That's how bad this is. This is a terrible, terrible thing. So I don't think we really understand what those steps are for this plant to commence operation. So now the thing that was in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals was simply to find out whether that variance that was granted in 1948 was a use variance or not that allows them to operate a concrete plant on that property. And that's all we've determined at this point in time. So that doesn't mean that they've been granted approval to begin concrete.
The building inspector can probably answer a few questions for us, although I hate to bring him into the fray, but I'm not sure. They have to make application for a building permit. I believe they have to go before the planning board for site plan approval, but our building inspector.
Well, and the environmental things should be considered, don't you think? I mean, and I don't know what the rules are there, but I have to imagine that they're going to need to be able to, they're going to have to follow the guidelines of today's environmental regulations so that I'm not breathing silica. A good neighbor of mine has a chain link fence separating his property from there. So when they started doing their mulch operation, he had to mow his cars to get the crap off of his cars. And he's going to be the first one breathing all this stuff in. And they've been here far longer than I have. I've only been here for 13 years. I would like to stay, but I really would consider leaving if this happens.
I know that people have a lot of questions, and there are a lot of issues about this. I mean, that's why, I had spoken to Bob Bradley earlier today and suggested that someone from the ZBA come to this meeting tonight, and Bill Walters, our building inspector, so that at least we can get, and members of the public can get some perspective as to, how this was approached and what the issues were.
And what the timeline is. I think everyone is interested in what the timeline is and what the steps are, so that we really understand. A lot of this stuff, we try to make the meetings we can. Life happens, so we can't all make it to all meetings. And let me tell you, my neighbors, they keep me informed about the meetings that I wasn't to.
I watched the public hearing on TV.
So,
No.
well, I instead of doing that, they come and they give me the salient points. So, but I think that there is some real confusion as to what is really
Absolutely,
happening.
and so why don't we let Bill Walters come up and speak to some of the issues of
I'm not
concern.
going to make your day. Building permit was issued back in September for the renovation of the concrete batch plant that was granted until the accident occurred. That with the decision of the ZBA and with the determination from the engineers, that building was determined to be safe, and that permit has been reissued. I'm currently waiting for plans for the interior wall, which has changed from the original permit, to see how that's going to be redesigned. With the approval of the ZBA to allow the batch plant to be restarted, the north wall, which is the wall that collapsed, needs to be reconstructed, and I've asked the owner on how that is going to be constructed. I'm currently waiting for those set of plans, and he'll resubmit a new permit for that north wall. But the interior and part of the batch plant, the permits are already out there. And it's my understanding that there's no requirement, as long as they're not making the building bigger, there's no requirement for them to go back to the planning board, because the building's not getting any bigger, there's no change.
What about EPA regulations? What about the air quality, water quality regulations?
It's a use, it is a use from 1948. Nobody cared about the ducts in 1948.
Don't they have to comply with current laws now?
My interpretation, they would have to change the building and change the process. They're not changing the process. They made concrete before. They made concrete in 2005. That was all approved by the planning board and the courts. Everything was approved. But they would have to change something to go back to the planning board. They haven't changed anything. They haven't changed anything to force them to go back to the planning board.
I think. Well,
The building department doesn't enforce those regulations.
I think what we're all trying to understand is, do they have to go get a RCRA for their heavy metals? Do they have to go to EPA, state DEC, to make sure that their air pollution...
DEC has gone down and they've looked at the site, and DEC has said that they don't have any problems with the site. It's not within the wetlands. Where the plant is, it's not in the wetlands. These are questions you would have to ask DEC.
Okay. Let Councilman Denbaum...
What I just think Bill is saying is,
Excuse me.
1 second. You guys can all come up and line up and speak. All I was trying to say is what I think Bill is saying is, from his office's point of view, his office does not need, is not the EPA. So, so if somebody's violating the rules, the regulations, the laws that is enforced by the EPA's enforcement wing, then they will be the ones doing that. All I think Bill's trying to say is regarding, you know, they're just doing the same thing they did before, is that from a building inspector's point of view, there's nothing more, and the planning board, there's nothing more that he, you know, he's not going to be interpreting nor enforcing DEC, DEP, you know, Army Corps of Engineers, whatever you can think of. That doesn't mean they're not going to be enforced. It doesn't mean the current standards are not going to be upheld. It just means that his office is not going to be the one that is dealing with it.
Right, and it doesn't mean they can't be brought in.
And it doesn't mean the DEC doesn't come down tomorrow and say you're violating X, Y, and Z. It doesn't mean that you can't go to the What? No, I know. But I think all we're saying is that's the jurisdiction of the DEC.
We need you to come to the
You have to get up.
microphone. None of this is getting picked up on TV, so
And it's my understanding from Kent investors that they're probably looking at 3 months before any operation could even start. So.
Just a question to Billy first.
Yeah.
So have you changed your opinion now on the abandonment? You've changed your whole argument, and you're now
The ZBA
agreeing?
did that. I'm done. The ZBA did that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the town board supported our building inspector in his interpretation. And as our attorney said, she appeared at the public hearing. This board authorized her to appear at the public hearing in support of the building inspector's position. We believed that he had made the right decision.
My name is Robert Palazzo. I'm a 37-year resident of Kent. Bob Bradley, what you said, the usage, the variance usage, I just don't understand. If it doesn't apply to today's code, why is it still in force? I can't put up a shed without getting reamed up and down, inside and out, but yet they can open up an environmental hazard in the town of Kent, and they just let it happen. If the environment and everything else that's going on in today's society, and you guys just say, okay, I don't care what they found usage, change the laws. Change the laws to apply to the citizens of this county. We pay the taxes for this. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't understand how they cannot say, well, look, this was 1948, 69 years ago, but yet today, I mean, you can't burn a fire in your backyard without getting permits. These guys are cancer. They're putting cancer out in the environment. Now, if the Article 78 is, if the zoning board decides to reopen this, how long does it happen before they shut this plant down? And then are we going to get sued and lose another $2 million case like we did on Nichols Street? Because now there's a sewer there. I got a sewer that I smell going to work every day, which is great, sewage plant, but that's besides the point. It's just, how long will it take to shut this place down, and are we going to get sued again and lose another big case? That's all.
Bob, do you want to, Shauna, let Bob respond to,
The difference between area variances and use variances, if you're living up by the Kent schools in the houses across the street from the Kent school, that's a commercial zone. There's houses that have been built there that are pre-existing that should never have been built there. But we accept them as being pre-existing non-conforming or non-complying, pre-existing non-complying. If they had a variance to build a house, a residential house in a commercial zone, that variance would basically run forever as a use variance because you're changing the use of the underlying zoning. An area variance applies to a shed. If the shed is too close to the sideline, if something is too close to the sidelines, it moves lines and it allows things to be built because of the environment or because of, you know, whatever reason it was. In the town code, those only go for a year. And if they don't go within a year, the same as an area variance, if for a lot that's too small, if it's a 1 acre zone and the lot is 9/10 of an acre and you give them a variance for you know, to bring it up to the standards of an acre zone, that only lasts for a year. Unfortunately, use variance is back in 1948, and I think that the thing ran with the land. And it's a fact that the owners, when they buy property, buy it with the consideration that that use variance is in place and is still good. Otherwise, a lot of these places would never get traded. You know, you can't buy a property and you buy it with a use variance and you want to use it for a residential purpose, and the town comes in and says, no, it's a commercial area, you can't live there. You know, if we came in up on the Kent schools and said to all those people that you're in a commercial zone, basically you have to get out. You know, they have to rely on the fact that so that's the difference. You know, it's a big difference, and that was what we were faced with, the fact of the use, and not just an area. So that, I think it's like a zoning 101.
Can I just ask a quick question? Because I think a lot of people are really interested in the process of how what would happen. So if you call, as we have recommended and will be recommending, a meeting on Monday in addition to the workshop, and put this to a vote whether or not to reopen the public hearing, you need a supermajority?
We need a majority. We need the +1. Okay. We would need a supermajority.
So you need a supermajority to reopen the public hearing.
We would need 4 votes.
If you get the supermajority at the meeting on Monday, at that meeting, then you would reschedule another public hearing, okay? And how much, you know, generally, what amount of time would it be at your next regular meeting in September, or at the workshop in September?
I would say that, yeah, at September.
Okay. Because I think people really need to understand then what the mechanics of this is so that they can be prepared. All of these things will be posted on the ZBA page on the website if it is reopened. The date of a new public hearing would be announced. People would have an opportunity to come forth at that time. I mean, people could come to the workshop and meeting on Monday as well, and that would give people, if it is going to be reopened, it would give people a month, give or take, to prepare.
Does that kill the 30 days? The clock's ticking now.
That's the problem, is the fact of the 30 days.
Everybody in line who wants to speak.
Yeah. If on Monday they say they're going to schedule a meeting, I'm trying to be near the microphone.
No, but we have people.
Okay. If on Monday they say they're going to schedule a meeting in September, does the statement on Monday stop the clock?
That's what I was just going to ask. I wanted to make sure that at that meeting you would rescind your previous resolution.
That would be two issues. Yeah, I mean, it would involve 2 issues. One would be, it would help us if there was evidence, new evidence presented at a public hearing that would go toward the fact of the use of this property from 1948, and what was the use in 1948 actually, and when did the use change to a batch plant, if it ever did. If there's evidence as to what was there in 1948 and what they were doing actually in 1948, and if this use changed specifically, that would be brought up at a public hearing to us, and it would be a new fact that would have bearing, I believe, on what's going on. Otherwise, we're just, you know, rehashing what we did before.
We should probably take comments from everybody who wants to speak, and then.
Here's your evidence right here. 1948, they did the clocks. They never ran trucks. We cannot find anything that they changed it over to.
You have to give me this at a hearing. Yeah.
I just would like to know, you guys, it's almost impossible to get anything passed. I came to every meeting. The day of the meetings is when they would cancel. They've been on December, January, February. All of a sudden, one meeting, they came here and stacked this place with every driver they had, screamed and yelled at these guys, and these guys turned around and said, yep, meeting's closed, we're done. We'll have a decision at the next meeting. Have your lawyers handle it. That was so unprofessional, it's not even funny.
All right. Well, you know, but, I mean, let's move forward. And
no, we're not moving forward.
Well, we are.
I live there, though.
Well, we are going to move forward if the ZBA will call a special meeting on Monday and take this up as a vote. I can guarantee you that I mean, I think everybody will be watching. But, you know, it will be on the website the next day. What happened, if you want to get on my mailing list, I'll send, you know, the supervisor's mailing list, and everybody will receive notification.
I just have one quick question. The statement was made that if the use variance doesn't continue in its usage for 2 years, that it becomes null. Well, it's not an area variance and not a use variance, because my question was if they haven't been doing it since 2005, it should be null.
That was the town's position.
Yep.
Yeah, that was
If I can just say one thing. The closing of the public hearing seems to become an issue to the public. And just to explain that, closing of the public hearing wasn't our idea. That was a suggestion by council. And the reason that it was suggested was the issues became legal. It became only legal issues that needed legal briefs. We got all the letters from the neighbors. We got all the letters that were submitted. The counselor who spoke before had submitted those along with his legal briefs. It was done that it had to be, all the legal papers had to be in by the workshop meeting, of which we passed them around. And that was it, because we were only addressing one particular legal issue. And that's why that was closed at that time.
We need to, I don't mean to interrupt you, and it's not my meeting to run. But we have to get through people over comments.
You can't just keep popping up.
I'll make it quick. We have a monster here. The first monster started in 1946 was asbestos. Now we have crystalline silica. Effective in September of this coming month, on the 23rd, OSHA has set a new standard to protect the workplace environment from crystalline silica. This is only the beginning of an ongoing study that this is, going to be the next monster. So I just wanted to make that point so that everyone's aware that this is a big, big problem, and just so you know. Thank you.
Sorry. A couple of thoughts as I've listened to all of you talk. You now say there needs to be a supermajority to get them to reopen this. So I guess it would be in our interest, even though the issue may be a very legal one, to make that board aware of the concerns and how many people are concerned. So I would get that out to the public, that we probably should go, even though it probably won't be something that we're going to talk about. But they need to know that it means it's important. The other point is the Article 78 and dealing with DEC and dealing with water control and air control and all that. It is very hard for us as individuals who are doing our other jobs and doing everything else and living our lives to work in a coordinated fashion. And that's part of the reason we elect officials. And we would hope, just as you've said you want to be our advocate with NYSEG, that this council and this board will be our advocates in coordinating and reaching out to the elected officials with whom you have relationships. I mean, we certainly have state senators and state council members and federal representatives, as well as you. It is hard for us as a non-organized group to do that, and I think we look to you to really make this case for us, and that's why we are here.
And you know, and not to belabor, I mean, this, this was not on the agenda. We had been contacted by a number of individuals who had said they wanted to come and speak about this. And that's kind of the importance of having this public comment section on a town board meeting, because it allows residents to come and talk about things that they think are important and to inform the board on on what their position is. And so even though, this section of the meeting probably has been longer than the whole rest of the meeting, but this board recognizes that this is a very important issue. And, we didn't say, well, it's not on the agenda, and so we're not going to talk about it, because what our residents are dealing with is very important to all of us. And I'm very happy that people, showed up. I'm very happy that people, spoke their minds about this. And, you certainly have informed us. And I think you've informed, the Zoning Board of Appeals and our building inspector, who, had always maintained this position that this should not have been an approved use. And that was what the town board had backed his position, and our town attorney had, attended the public hearing, written, to the ZBA about this, because we understand that this is important. So if there are a couple of more comments, but I think that the way this is going to go is we're going to pass a resolution tonight, and that we're going to encourage the ZBA to consider reopening the public hearing, holding a special meeting on Monday after their workshop. And I can tell you that we will keep the public apprised. Go on the website, or shoot me an email, mfleming@townofkentny.gov, and I will put you on my email list. And Tuesday morning, I will let people know what happened Monday night.
Maureen, one about the quirks. This would be this coming Monday?
Yeah.
Okay, there's an advance notice of notifying public meetings, and I don't know, Counselor, it's a workshop, but you're going to have a voting meeting. Make sure you check to make sure there's no, well, I think one of the lady mentioned quirks. Everything should be done. Did you understand? I meant that sometimes I don't come across.
Yeah, we have time. We have time to do it.
Okay, you got time, but it's got to get out, and it's done by the zoning board, so Bob or the secretary or the town clerk.
Right. And a notice will be posted, and everybody will be gifted.
Today's Tuesday.
I just want to ask one more question. If they don't get the super majority, then this is all for naught. It just goes right down.
If they don't get a supermajority, I'm sure that the residents will huddle with, I think there's an attorney here, and I think the town board will huddle an executive session before the deadline would pass.
Absolutely.
Thank
This is
you.
a major. This meeting is not the end of this issue. And I think the town board is very aware of, of what you're saying, and we're going to move ahead. And we will keep the public informed. Like I said, get on the mailing list. It'll be on the website, but people will certainly be informed. And thank you again for coming. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I live right there. We asked for, what did we ask for, like a 6-foot or a 10-foot wall? Like you see on the parkways, we got a 6-foot line fence. What good is that?
Right. Right. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Thank you all. Don't you want to stay for the exciting votes? No? Okay.
We're going to make the motion now. We're doing it right now.
Take it out of order.
Okay. All right, please. We're going to start the meeting section. Can we have roll call, please?
Supervisor Fleming?
Present.
Councilman Denbaum?
Present.
Councilwoman Glassen?
Present.
Councilman Eustace?
Here.
Councilman Chin?
Present.
All present.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to add an item to the agenda regarding zoning board rehearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I'd like to make a motion to pass a resolution to strongly recommend to the Zoning Board of Appeals to exercise their right under Section 267A, subsection 12 of the Town Law, to hold a rehearing on the Kent Investors LLC appeal of the determination of the building inspector dated May 18, 2017, and to rescind the July 17, 2017 resolution regarding the same on or before August 7, 2017. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's do the concessionaire for the Kent Community Day.
Come on, everybody wants to be here for that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to make a motion authorizing the resolution to hire a concessionaire for Kent Community Day. Whereas the town of Kent is in need of a concessionaire for Kent Community Day, scheduled for Saturday, September 9th, 2017 at Edward Ryan Memorial Park in the town of Kent. Whereas
I'm sorry, can we please just keep it down? We are really finishing the meeting now. Can we talk outside, maybe? Thank you.
Whereas the Director of Recreation and Parks has negotiated with Carmel Bagel Deli, who previously successfully operated the concession stand during Kent Community Day from 2012 to 2015. Whereas in return for operating the concession stand, Carmel Bagel Deli has offered to pay the town of Kent 15% net profits earned on Kent Community Day. And whereas the Director of Recreation and Parks has recommended the acceptance of the proposal from Carmel Bagel Deli, and the Town Board of the Town of Kent wishes to accept the recommendation of the Director of Recreation and Parks. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Kent hereby accepts the proposal of Carmel Bagel Deli to act as concessionaire in return for 15% of the net profits earned that day. Be that further resolved, the town supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to execute any and all agreements and other documents necessary to give effect to this resolution, consistent with the terms hereof, all in a form satisfactory to the supervisor and the town attorney. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Scott.
I'll do, what do you want to do? B and C?
She wants Scott's 15.
Okay. So I'll do B and C.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one. I'd like to make a motion authorizing the rejecting of bids and authorizing the town clerk to re-advertise for bids for inclusive playground. Whereas the town of Kent previously advertised a notice to bidders seeking bids for inclusive playground equipment, whereas bids received in response to the advertisement were opened and publicly read aloud on July 21st, 2017, in accordance with the notice to bidders, and whereas the notice to bidders specifically advised the town reserved the right to reject all bids and re-advertise for new bids, and whereas the Town Board of the Town of Kent wishes to reject the bids for inclusive playground equipment and authorizes Town Clerk Yolanda D. Capelli to re-advertise for bids for inclusive playground equipment for the Town of Kent Town Hall complex located at 25 Stibbles Crossing, Kent Lakes, New York, 10512. Now therefore be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Kent hereby rejects the bids which were open on July 21st, 2017, and authorizes Town Clerk Yolanda D. Capelli to re-advertise for bids for the inclusive playground equipment. I make that motion.
Second.
For discussion, please. Could we add on that with the approval or support of Town Attorney Nancy? Okay.
Roll call.
Should we also add that it needs, that they'll be opened on September 1st?
I make that motion and roll call.
Councilman Denbow?
No.
Councilwoman McGlasson?
Yes.
Councilman Eustace?
Yes, as long as Town Council reviews everything and supports that motion. Yes.
Councilman Chin?
Yes.
Supervisor Fleming?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Are you going to set them up?
Oh, it's right there.
Is that what you want?
Yeah, I had it. Sorry. I'd like to make a motion setting a public hearing for amendments to the Kent Town Code regarding bonds. Public notice is hereby given that there has been introduced before the Town Board of the Town of Kent, New York, on today's date, August 1st.
You need it for be it resolved.
Oh, there's my resolution. Make a motion, authorize the resolution introducing local law number 3? How many?
Blank.
blank. Oh, in case we don't pass that. And providing for public notice and hearing. Maybe we will. Be it resolved that the amendment to the Kent Town Code authorizing acceptance by the Town of Kent boards of surety bonds and letters of credit in addition to cash bonds is hereby introduced by Paul Denbaum as introductory law blank of the year 2017 before the Town Board of the Town of Kent, County of Putnam, State of New York. Be it further resolved that copies of the aforesaid proposed amendment, which is attached to here, be laid upon the desk of each member of the board, and be it further resolved, the Town Board will hold a public hearing on said proposed amendment at the Town Hall in the Town of Kent on September 5th at 7:00 p.m. on September 5th. Be it further resolved, the Town Clerk publish or cause to be published a public notice in the official newspaper of the Town of Kent of said public hearings at least 5 days prior thereto. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion regarding the resolution appointment to the Planning Board. Whereas there is currently a vacancy in the Town of Kent Planning Board, and whereas following an executive session held on June 8th, 2017, the Planning Board recommended appointing Stephen Pappas to fill the vacant position for the term expiring December 31st, 2020. And whereas the Town Board has interviewed applicants for the vacant Planning Board seat, has found Stephen Pappas to be qualified to fill the vacant position, and now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Kent hereby appoints Stephen Pappas to fill the vacancy on the Town Planning Board to a term expiring on December 31st, 2020. I make that motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Denbaum?
No, and just briefly, I would like to remind the public that the Town Board got recommendation from the Planning Board to retain certain counsel, the name of Ron Blast from Vandewater. The Town Planning Board Chairman pleaded with us to retain said counsel for the Zoning Board of Appeals. And in front of us tonight, the Zoning Board Chairman laid a lot of the blame for the decision at the feet of the counsel for the Zoning Board. He couldn't do anything. This was advice of counsel. I led the effort to replace said Zoning Board and Planning Board counsel with opposition from the Planning Board because I think it's the best interest of towns for us to make this decision. So once again, I disagree with the Planning Board's recommendation. It is not a conspiracy. It is because these decisions have real-world impact. I vote no.
Councilwoman McGlasson?
No.
Councilman Eustace?
No.
Councilman Chin?
Yes.
Supervisor Fleming?
Yeah, I think it's very unfortunate that we are passing over a eminently qualified, intelligent volunteer who has been recommended by the Planning Board by establishing artificial qualifications that have never been in effect, myself being an example of that, for basically political reasons. I vote yes.
Motion not carried.
I make a motion authorizing the removal of a dock. Whereas the Town of Kent Zoning Code Enforcement Officer William Looney recommends the removal of the lake dock located in the rear of the premise located at 8 T-Town Road in Lake Como Park District, the dock. And whereas Mr. Looney advises that the dock is severely compromised and should be removed in the interest of public safety, and now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Kent hereby authorizes the Zoning Code Enforcement Officer to take all necessary actions in order to remove the dock in the interest of public safety. I make that motion.
Second for discussion. I would hope that possibly the Park District can remove it so there's no extra charges, because if there's extra charges, it would be the town taxpayer or the Park District, maybe the town taxpayer, because we don't know who owns it, I believe. That's where it's nearby the house, and they denied that they put it up. So hopefully
So
we can look
can
into
we
that.
amend it to read authorizes the zoning code enforcement officer and/or the Park District crew chief to take all necessary actions? This way, in case he can
Fine.
actually do it?
I would agree to that.
Okay. So with that amendment, I second.
the amendment or whatever.
All in favor?
Aye. Make a motion authorizing the correction of violation, acceptance of proposal, and charge to the property owner. Whereas a code enforcement officer in the town of Kent issued an order to remedy a violation dated June 15, 2017, directing the owner to remove all rubbish from the exterior area of the property identified as 10 Ridgeway Road, tax map 33.27-2-18, the property, and whereas the order to remedy requires the owner to correct the violations or respond to the code enforcement office within 10 days, and to date the owner of the property has not responded. Whereas pursuant to Chapter 55A of the Town Code of the Town of Kent regarding property maintenance, upon the failure of any owner to comply, the building inspector is authorized to correct the violation subject to the approval of the Town Board, and the Town Board wishes to authorize the building inspector to correct the violation. And whereas consistent with the town's procurement policy, the Town of Kent requested 3 written proposals from contractors to correct the violation on the property, and received 1 proposal in response from F.I. Adams, a copy of which is annexed hereto and incorporated by reference. And whereas the Town Board of the Town of Kent wishes to accept the proposal submitted by F.I. Adams Incorporated, now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Kent hereby accepts the bid of F.I. Adams Incorporated for the correction of the violation, and further resolved that the actual cost of the correction of the violation plus the accrued legal rate of interest from the date of completion of the work shall be charged to the property owner by the town in accordance with Chapter 55A-12B. Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion authorizing a temporary sales event for Lakeview Community Church. Whereas pursuant to Chapter 58 of the Code of the Town of Kent, no temporary sales event may be conducted in the Town of Kent without first applying for a permit from the Town Board. And whereas Lakeview Community Church has submitted an application to conduct a temporary sales event in the form of a community tag sale at its location at 387 Route 52 on September 16, 2017, with a rain date of September 23, 2017. And whereas the Town Board has reviewed the application and supporting documentation and finds the application to comply with the requirements of the Town Code of the Town of Kent in all respects, and now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Kent hereby authorizes the issuance of a permit to Lakeview Community Church to conduct a community tag sale at its location at 387 Route 52 on September 16, 2017, with a rain date of September 23, 2017. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I make...
And if you don't mind, I'll read a proposal and then someone can make a motion. Can I have a motion to find that the strip of land adjacent to 29 Amlock Road is unneeded real property which the town wishes to convey or offer for sale, and setting a public hearing on the matter on September 5th, 2017 at 7 p.m. and authorizing the town clerk to cause a notice of the public hearing to be published.
Second.
No, you have to
make a
make the
motion.
motion.
Oh, I make a,
Yeah.
wait for, okay.
I therefore
make a motion to set the public hearing.
And to find that the property is unneeded real property. The town doesn't need it.
And to find out the town doesn't need it. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Is that it with that one? Yep. Okay.
All set.
Yep.
I'd like the Town Board to approve the following vouchers. They're over the threshold for August 1st. As of August 1st, 2017, city carding $4,858.98, $5,713.12, and $6,710.91. That's for the Lake Carmel garbage. Clove excavators, $237,703.75 for blacktop. Computer professionals, $2,015 network consulting. Geneserve, $4,690 for generator service. Lumar Plumbing, $2,216 for Water District No. 1 repair. Nycomco, $2,622 a two-way radio for police. New York State Department of Civil Service for health insurance, $292,291.77. State Line Landscaping, $2,775 is disposal from harvesting. Summit Bobcat, $2,758 for tracks for the Bobcat. Terry Bolt, it's part of his payment for the Kent Police Steps, $3,733.33. I ask you to approve these vouchers as read.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Just a notification, as we do every August, There is no formal second meeting this month. There is a brief daytime meeting on Thursday, August 24th at noon, whose sole purpose is to approve vouchers so that our vendors can get paid. And as established here tonight, we're changing the first meeting in September from September 12th to September 5th. So we'll note those changes on the website so people can plan on it. And we'll have those 2 public hearings on September 5th. Public comment? There being none? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.